Hark lords and ladies, and welcome back to another LEGO Castle video. Today I wanted to take a look at the new Griffin and Kraken factions. However, we will not be looking at the figures that came in the new Minifigure Vending Machine, and I promise it's not just because I don't have any yet. Instead, I wanted to take a look at the new designs up on the Minifigure Factory on Lego.com. The new faction symbols are available in a variety of designs. There are 2 featured designs each for the Griffins and the Krakens. All 4 are t-shirt designs with their respective symbols. They honestly remind me of high school mascot t-shirts. There's also several Griffin and Kraken symbols to mess around with in the customizer itself. So I decided to make a couple new figures for these castle factions. So to start off with my own design, I used the Dragon Knight torso that they have up on the customizer right now. And then I used the new emblems to cover up the old symbol, giving me a new torso with this armor for each faction. Then I just added the other random pieces to complete the figures. Honestly, I'm hoping they add more pieces for these in the future. They're pretty limited right now. So with that, I had to wait until they got here to finish these figures up. When they did get here, I pulled up the figures from the vending machine, so I had a little bit of inspiration to keep them similar enough. Looking at the Kraken Knight, I knew I had to incorporate the browns and greens into this new figure. I also wanted to keep this more light armored look. I added these dual molded brown and tan legs I got from the Build-A-Minifigure station recently. Then I committed sin and popped off the white arms and put on brown ones. Next, to incorporate a little bit more green, I gave him the cape from the D&D Halfling Druid. And after that, I gave him a random head from my castle stash and a dark pearl gray Viking helmet. This is the same mold the new Kraken Knights have. However, they are the only ones with a brown color of this helmet. Then to finish him off, I gave him a brown crossbow. It does bug me a lot that these figures can only be printed on white torsos. I would much rather have a brown or black base for this guy. Other than that, I think he turned out pretty great though. Moving on to the Griffin Knight, I do think the white looks a lot better here, so I left his arms as they are. I did give him some shoulder armor, another head from my castle stuff, and a silver kettle helmet. For a weapon, I gave him a spear. In thinking more about it, I may switch his armor out for a quiver and just give him a bow. I think making each of them their respective factions' archers could work really well. Overall, I really like these figures, and it's always fun to do some customizing. I'm really glad LEGO added these to the Minifigure Factory, and I think it's a great and somewhat cheaper way to add figures to these new factions. I also really like to have some variety in figures when I'm army building, especially with castle stuff. So it's nice to have these guys look so different from the figures in the vending machine. I'm really excited to see more from these factions. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I think they would make a great basis for a proper castle theme. Imagine that. Regular castle sets like we had over a decade ago. Anyway, I'm very hopeful for these guys. I have a feeling that the parts from the vending machine will pop up on Pick-A-Brick within a few months. I'm really hoping for those shields especially. Thanks again for taking another look into the fantastic world of LEGO Castle with me. Make sure to stay tuned for more awesome LEGO videos, and we'll see you next time.